My name is Jack Mercer. I've been driving long haul for Horizon Logistics going on 12 years now. What happened at that rest stop on Route 40 last month? I still haven't told my wife the whole story. It was midnight when I pulled in. You know that stretch of highway between Reno and Salt Lake? Miles of nothing but darkness and those reflective markers guiding you through the desert. I'd been on the road since 5 a.m. and my eyes were starting to play tricks on me. Figured I needed coffee before I wrapped the last 100 miles. The rest stop was one of those older ones, just a small building with vending machines, bathrooms, and a couple of picnic tables out front. Dim lighting, but better than nothing. There were only 2 other vehicles there. A blue sedan with a family inside, looked like they were napping, and this white delivery van parked at the far end. I pulled my rig in, grabbed my thermos, and headed to the building. The family in the sedan barely glanced at me as I walked past. Inside, I filled my thermos with what barely qualified as coffee and used the bathroom. Just as I was coming out, my phone buzzed with a text from my dispatcher asking about my ETA. I stood under the light to reply, and that's when I noticed something odd about that delivery van. The side door was slightly open, and there seemed to be movement inside. At first, I thought maybe someone was sleeping in there, but then I heard what sounded like muffled crying. I hesitated. A lot of weird things happen on these highways at night, and the smart play is usually to mind your own business. But something didn't feel right. I walked closer, keeping my distance but trying to get a better look. That's when I heard it again, definitely crying, and it sounded like a woman. "Hello?" I called out. "Everything okay in there?" The crying stopped immediately. Dead silence. Then a man stepped out from behind the van. Nothing remarkable except for the surgical gloves on his hands. "Can I help you?" he asked. His voice was calm, friendly even. "Thought I heard something," I said, already regretting getting involved. He smiled. "Just my GPS acting up. Makes all kinds of weird noises." Before I could respond, I heard a thump from inside the van, followed by another muffled cry. The man's smile vanished. His hand moved to his waistband, and I caught the glint of something metal. "You should get back to your truck," he said quietly. "This doesn't concern you." My heart was hammering against my ribs. I took a step back, and that's when I noticed the family from the sedan was gone. Just me and this guy now, middle of nowhere. Another thump from the van, louder this time. The man glanced nervously over his shoulder. "Last chance," he said. "Walk away now." I'm not proud of what I did next. I nodded like I was going to leave, turned around, and started walking toward my truck. I heard him sigh with relief. The moment I was out of his line of sight, I sprinted to the family restroom on the other side of the building and locked myself inside. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely dial 911. "There's someone in trouble at the Route 40 rest stop," I whispered to the dispatcher. "I think a woman's being held against her will in a white delivery van. The man has a weapon." "Officers are on their way," she assured me. "Can you safely get to your vehicle?" Before I could answer, I heard the restroom door rattle. "I know you're in there, truck driver," the man called through the door. His voice had changed completely, cold and flat. "Open up and we can talk about this." I stayed silent, pressing myself against the far wall, away from the door. "You really shouldn't have gotten involved," he continued. "This was supposed to be quick and clean. Now it's messy." The door rattled again, harder this time. He was trying to force it open. I looked around desperately for a weapon, something to defend myself with. Nothing but paper towels and soap dispensers. "Police are on their way," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. He laughed. "We both know how long that'll take out here. But don't worry, I'll be gone by then, just like all the others." Then came the sound of breaking glass. He was trying to get in through the window. I wedged myself against the door, using my weight to keep it shut while fumbling with my phone to update the dispatcher. That's when I heard something that saved my life. Sirens in the distance. The man heard them too, There was a moment of silence, then footsteps running away. I stayed locked in that bathroom until a state trooper's voice called out to me. When I finally opened the door, there were 3 patrol cars with flashing lights and officers with drawn weapons surrounding the white van. But the man was gone. He'd fled into the desert on foot. Inside the van, they found a young woman bound with zip ties. Alive, thank God. She'd been abducted from a gas station 2 states over. The officers also found a collection of driver's licenses hidden in a compartment under the floor. 8 different women from 5 different states. They never caught him. The van was stolen, wiped clean of prints. My name is Sarah Dawson. I work night shifts as a paramedic in rural Kentucky. After 12 years on the job, you'd think nothing would shake me anymore. But what happened at the Pinecrest Rest Area on I-75 3 months ago still has me looking over my shoulder. I was driving home at 3:30 a.m. after a grueling 16-hour shift. Thunderstorm was rolling in, and I was dead tired. My eyes kept drooping, so I decided to pull into the rest stop for a quick power nap before finishing the drive home. Pinecrest is one of those older rest areas, just bathrooms, vending machines, and a small parking area surrounded by woods. When I pulled in, there were only 2 other vehicles there, a semi parked in the truck section and a dark SUV with its lights off. I parked under one of the few working lights, reclined my seat, and set my phone alarm for 20 minutes. I must have fallen asleep immediately. The sound of tapping on my window jolted me awake. A woman stood outside my car, maybe mid-30s, drenched from the rain that had started while I was sleeping. She looked panicked. Being a paramedic, my first instinct was that she needed medical help. I cracked the window slightly. "I'm so sorry to bother you," she said, her voice shaking. "My car broke down and my phone's dead. Could I possibly use yours to call for help?" Something felt off. Her clothes were soaked, but her hair was barely wet. And despite claiming her car had broken down, she wasn't carrying keys or a purse. "Which car is yours?" I asked. She hesitated, then pointed vaguely toward the dark SUV. "The black one over there." I nodded and reached for my phone. "I'll call roadside assistance for you. What's the problem with your car?" That's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. In the reflection of my side mirror, I could see a man crouching behind my car, slowly making his way toward the driver's side door. My doors were locked, thank God. Working nights in isolated areas, that's a habit you develop quick. "You know what?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've got a roadside assistance kit in my trunk. Let me grab it and I'll help you out." The woman's expression changed instantly. The distress vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. "Just open the door, lady," she said flatly. "Don't make this difficult." I threw my car into reverse, hitting the gas hard. There was a shout and a thud as I backed up, catching the man who'd been creeping toward my door. The woman jumped clear just in time. In my rearview mirror, I saw the man sprawled on the pavement. The woman ran to the SUV, which now had its headlights on and engine running. I sped toward the exit, but the SUV pulled out after me, high beams blinding me through my rear window. I grabbed my radio. The one perk of being a paramedic is having direct access to emergency services. "This is Paramedic Dawson. I've got an attempted carjacking at Pinecrest Rest Area. Dark SUV in pursuit, heading north on I-75. The dispatcher's voice crackled back immediately. "Units responding. Stay on the line, Sarah." The SUV stayed right on my tail for 6 miles, close enough that I couldn't even see its license plate. Then suddenly, blue lights appeared behind us. The state police had been running radar just up the road. The SUV immediately cut across the median and took off southbound. When the troopers came to take my statement, they told me I wasn't the first. 3 motorists had been carjacked at rest stops along I-75 in the past month. Same method each time. Woman approaches claiming to need help, while a man sneaks up from behind. 2 of those carjackings ended in murder. The police never caught them. The SUV was found abandoned 20 miles away, stolen, of course, These days, I don't stop at rest areas anymore. If I get tired driving, I find a 24-hour gas station with plenty of lights and people. And I never ever roll down my window for strangers after dark. My name is Mike Reeves. I work as a traveling sales rep for a pharmaceutical company, which means I spend most of my life on the road. 3 weeks ago, something happened at the Lakeview Travel Plaza off Highway 61 that I can never forget. It was a Tuesday night around 11 p.m. I'd been driving since morning, making stops at clinics across 3 counties. I was exhausted and still had another hour to my hotel, so I pulled into the Travel Plaza to grab coffee and stretch my legs. Lakeview is one of those newer places, well lit with a convenience store, fast food joints, and clean restrooms. The kind of place that feels safe, even late at night. There were maybe a dozen cars scattered around the lot and a few semis in the truck area. I parked near the main building, went in, and got my coffee. I was heading back to my car when I noticed 2 men standing by a pickup truck, looking under the hood. One of them waved to get my attention. "Excuse me," he called out. "You wouldn't happen to know anything about cars, would you?" "I'm no mechanic, but I know the basics." The guy seemed friendly enough, maybe mid-40s, wearing a polo shirt and jeans. His friend was younger, maybe early 30s, wearing a baseball cap. "I can take a look," I said, walking over. The older guy explained they were getting a weird noise from the engine and asked if I'd listen while his friend revved it. Nothing unusual about the request. I've both asked for and offered this kind of help dozens of times on the road. I leaned over the engine while the younger guy got in the driver's seat. The older man pointed at something in the engine compartment. "Listen right here," he said. "You'll hear it when he starts it up." As I leaned in closer, I felt something press against my back. "Don't move," the older man whispered. His voice had completely changed, flat, emotionless. "There's a knife at your kidney. You feel that?" Ice spread through my veins. I felt the sharp point pressing through my jacket. "My wallet's in my back pocket," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Take it. Take my car keys too." "We don't want your wallet," he replied. "We need your help with something else. My friend is going to get out of the truck. When he does, you're going to get in, nice and casual. Anyone looking will just see 3 guys fixing a truck. You understand?" My mind was racing. Getting into their vehicle was a death sentence. I knew that much from every crime show I'd ever watched. "What do you need me for?" I asked, trying to buy time. The plaza was well lit, but the row where we were parked was at the edge of the lot. No one was looking our way. "Just get in the truck," he said, pressing the knife harder. That's when I saw my chance. A state trooper's cruiser pulled into the plaza, heading for the parking spot near the convenience store. "Okay," I said, straightening up slightly. "I'll do whatever you want." Then, in one desperate move, I slammed my elbow back as hard as I could. I felt it connect with something soft. The man grunted, and the pressure of the knife disappeared for a split second. I bolted toward the trooper's car, yelling at the top of my lungs, "Help! Police! These men have a knife!" The trooper was halfway out of his car when he heard me. He immediately drew his weapon and shouted commands. I glanced back to see both men jumping into their pickup. They peeled out of the parking lot, tires screeching. The trooper radioed in the description and plate number while checking if I was hurt. I was shaking so badly I could barely speak. 2 hours later, I was at the state police barracks giving my statement. The detective showed me a series of photos. I identified both men immediately. "You're lucky," she told me. "These 2 are wanted in connection with 3 abductions along this highway in the past year. All men traveling alone. None of them have been found." They caught the pair 2 days later at a roadblock in the next state. During the search of their property, police found evidence linking them to at least 5 murders. Turns out they'd been targeting traveling businessmen, people who wouldn't be immediately missed, whose disappearances might not be connected right away. I don't travel that route anymore. My company was understanding enough to reassign my territory. I don't stop at rest areas after dark, no matter how safe they look. And I never, ever help strangers with their cars. I was driving cross-country late one night, the kind of drive where the miles blur together and your eyes start to burn from staring at the road for so long. I'd been on Interstate 10 for hours, passing through the emptiness of rural Texas, when my fuel gauge dipped into the red. The next gas station was miles ahead, and it felt like the road stretched on forever. Finally, a small, dimly lit gas station appeared on the horizon. The place looked run down, the kind of spot where you only stop if you have no other choice. I pulled in, relieved to see at least one flickering light above the pumps. As I got out of the car and started to fill the tank, I noticed an old van parked near the station's entrance. The paint was chipped, and the windows were dark. Inside the van, there was a man sitting in the driver's seat. He didn't move, didn't blink, just sat there, staring straight at me with wide, unblinking eyes. His gaze felt off, like he was looking through me rather than at me. I tried to shake it off, convincing myself I was just being paranoid. After all, it was late, I was exhausted, and strange things happen when your mind starts playing tricks on you. I quickly paid for my gas and got back into my car, eager to put distance between myself and that creepy gas station. I merged back onto the highway, the darkness swallowing me up again. But after a few minutes, I glanced in the rearview mirror, and my stomach dropped. The van was there, following me. At first, I told myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe the guy was heading in the same direction. But no matter how fast I drove, the van stayed right behind me, its headlights glaring in my mirror. I pressed the gas pedal harder, speeding up to try and lose him. But the van kept pace, sticking to me like a shadow. My heart started to race. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, that the man in the van had been waiting for me, watching me. I scanned the road ahead and spotted a rest stop a few miles up. Desperate to lose the van, I pulled off the highway, hoping the driver would keep going. But when I stopped at the rest area and looked in the rearview mirror again, the van was gone. Just like that, it had disappeared into the night. I sat there for a moment, heart pounding, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Maybe I'd lost him. Maybe he'd turned off onto another road. I didn't know. All I knew was that I wanted to put as much distance between me and that van as possible. I spent the rest of the drive looking over my shoulder, convinced the van would reappear at any moment, but it never did. The next morning, after finally arriving at my destination, I turned on the news. The headline hit me like a punch to the gut. Body found inside van at rural gas station. The report showed the same gas station I had stopped at, the same van. A man had been found inside, strangled, his body left to decompose for days. I couldn't shake the feeling that the man I saw wasn't the driver, that whoever had been staring at me from that van was someone else entirely. Someone who had already killed once, and maybe had been waiting to kill again. I still can't explain why I was spared that night, but the thought haunts me. I wonder if, by some twist of fate, the man had chosen someone else instead of me. It was late. Way too late to be driving on Route 66. The road was empty, the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. The only sound was my car's engine humming as I sped along the deserted highway. The desert stretched out endlessly on both sides, nothing but shadows and sand. Then I saw him. A man, standing by the side of the road, hitchhiking. His clothes were torn, his hair disheveled, and his eyes darted around like he was scared. I should have kept driving. My gut told me to. But something made me slow down. Before I knew it, I was pulling over. He got in without a word. The door creaked shut, and the air inside my car felt heavier. He mumbled something, but I couldn't make it out. I asked him where he was headed, but all he said was, "Someone's following me." I glanced over at him. His hands were trembling and he kept looking over his shoulder, like he expected someone to appear out of nowhere. His words made the hair on the back of my neck stand up, but I kept driving, telling myself it was just a weird coincidence. A few miles passed in tense silence. Then, in the rearview mirror, I saw it. Headlights, far behind us. At first, they didn't seem like much, but they were getting closer, fast. The hitchhiker saw them too. His whole body tensed and his breathing grew erratic. "You have to let me out," he whispered. "Now." I hesitated, unsure of what was happening, but he grabbed my arm, his grip tight and desperate. "Please pull over," he begged. There was panic in his eyes, the kind you don't ignore. I pulled over to the side of the road, gravel crunching under the tires. He jumped out of the car before it even stopped completely, running into the desert without looking back. He disappeared into the darkness in seconds, swallowed by the night. I sat there, confused, staring after him. The headlights behind me were growing brighter. The car was nearly on top of me now, its engine rumbling louder than mine. Then, it stopped right next to me. I glanced over and saw a man step out of the car. He was tall, with a menacing look in his eyes, and in his hand, he held a large knife. My heart raced, adrenaline kicking in as I realized the danger I was in. Before he could get any closer, I slammed my foot on the gas and sped off, tires screeching against the asphalt. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly they hurt. I didn't dare look back, afraid of what I might see. After what felt like hours, I finally checked the rearview mirror. There was nothing. No headlights, no man with a knife, no sign of the hitchhiker. It was as if they'd both vanished into thin air. I drove straight through the night, never stopping until I reached the next town. I never picked up another hitchhiker again. It was late, around 1 a.m., and I was driving along Highway 50, also known as the loneliest road in America. The nickname made sense. There were no other cars, no lights, just endless stretches of road cutting through the desert. I'd been visiting my parents for the weekend, but I needed to get back for work the next day. The emptiness around me felt comforting at first, but that soon changed. It started with a pair of headlights in my rearview mirror. They were far behind me at first, but soon the car was following me closely. I didn't think much of it. Probably just another late-night driver like me. But after 10 miles of this, something felt wrong. The car didn't pass me. It didn't fall back either. Instead, it stuck right behind me, matching my every move. I switched lanes. So did they. I slowed down, just to see what they would do, and they slowed down too. My heart began to race. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but something in my gut told me otherwise. As the road twisted through sharp turns, the car stayed glued to me. My knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. I pressed the gas, speeding up, hoping to lose them. But the car kept up, tailing me, almost close enough to touch my bumper. Then it happened. A sudden bump from behind jolted me forward in my seat. They had hit me. Panic surged through me as I struggled to keep control of the wheel. I glanced in the mirror and saw the car, still right there, no license plate on it. Whoever was driving wasn't just following me, they were toying with me. I had no choice. I had to pull over. My hands trembled as I brought the car to a stop on the shoulder of the road, gravel crunching beneath the tires. The car behind me stopped too. I watched as the driver's door opened and a man stepped out. He was tall, his face eerily calm, with no expression at all. In his hand, he held a crowbar. I could barely breathe. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to drive, to do anything but sit there frozen. As he walked closer, I snapped out of it. I slammed my foot on the gas, my car screeching as it launched forward. My heart pounded in my chest as I sped down the highway, the man disappearing in my rearview mirror. I didn't look back again. I didn't care where I was headed. as long as it was far away from him. I drove and drove until I reached a small town, its lights glowing like a beacon of safety. I pulled into a gas station, finally feeling like I could breathe again. My hands were still shaking. The next morning, I heard the news. A woman had been found dead on that same stretch of Highway 50, her car abandoned just a few miles from where I had been followed. The description of her car matched the one that had been tailing me. The same man, no doubt. But she hadn't gotten away. I don't drive at night anymore.